Hello and welcome to the GRADD Dialogue. My guest today is Ervin Dimeny. He is the Commissioner of Labor at the Labor Cabinet. Prior to this, he has served the past 8 years as a manager of the Court Interpreting Services for the Kentucky's Administrative Office of Courts. Commissioner has been in the present role for the Department of Workforce Standards, Workplace Standards, and the primary responsibility include enforcing the Kentucky's OSHA, health laws, wage and hour laws, and a lot of things that are dealing with Kentucky's workforce and the private sector as well. Dimeny received the bachelor's degree from the Hungarian Baptist Theological Seminary and a master's in divinity and theology from the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary and a Juris Doctorate from the University of Louisville. Commissioner, welcome to the GRADD Dialogue.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I'm just gonna go back to the thinking about not too long ago. You spoke to the GRADD Board of Directors, and I had to say that in my years of as an executive director of GRADD, I never had that lively board of directors meeting that we had this afternoon. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank
yes.
you.
And I think that's what I want to talk about. That you hit the nerve. We hear all the time. That we have the biggest challenge we face in Commonwealth, in GRADD, and also as a nation, and you even talked as a world too, of the workforce. The workforce not able to provide the skills the manufacturing and private sector need that.
Right.
And I think you had some great suggestions on that, some of the ongoing activities and all that. So rather than talking about what does OSHA does and what the health laws, the labor and everything else, let's just talk about that aspect and how has been going as far as the message you're going across the Commonwealth.
Sure. So, as we discussed it, the skilled workforce development, the skilled workforce, is really an issue in Kentucky, across the country, across the nation, across the world, for various reasons. And we could talk about this for days, for weeks, in terms of what the reason, or main reason. I think there are a number of reasons. One of which is the dynamic and quick changes that we see in terms of technology development, the way the world changes, the way our life changes from day to day. And so what we see here in Kentucky is really, and the region, is a dire need for dedicated, skilled employees, right? And so the discussion about the workforce development is really embedded or presented, if you wish, in the apprenticeship framework. The apprenticeship is an old model, centuries-old model that's been perfected by many regions, many countries, many sectors. In Kentucky, the apprenticeship has a long history, legislative history since the 1930s. And primarily the building trades has done a great job implementing this model in terms of growing skilled employees. And so we are in a phase, in a time where we are actually looking at scaling, at implementing this model, the apprenticeship model, to various sectors, various regions, right? And this fits very well into the governor's vision for Kentucky. The governor said that his vision for Kentucky is to turn this state, this Commonwealth, into a manufacturing and engineering hub of the United States. Workforce is an organic, a very important component of that vision, right? So the apprenticeship model, I think, is a good way to really engage the business sector, education, public policymakers, as well as the student, the employee itself.
But the Commissioner, when you mentioned all those things, it was a great discussion as well. But if you in a good Q&A as well, but you kind of relate that to how you grew up.
Right.
That
right.
it is, and that you being from Romania years ago, and I think left and came to here. So kind of relate that to see how the early childhood and the family plays a role to do what you want to do now.
Indeed. So where I grew up, I consider myself very lucky and blessed to live in the United States after growing up in communism.
Same here, yes.
And so we grew up in poverty. There was not much hope, but I was very lucky to have a set of parents that taught us how to work and ingrained in us that what you learn and what you with your head and what you learn with your hands, nobody can take away from you. And so early on as a child, I learned how to work with my dad in his shop, fixing cars. And, and that turned into an apprenticeship. And I was very lucky, pleased to have an employer here in Kentucky after I came here who gave me the opportunity to actually improve that with Taffa Motors Mercedes in Louisville. Became a Mercedes technician. And that's how I really pursued my higher education, paying my own way through that. And so that's really the model, that component of the apprenticeship that's very important. It provides a very good integration of intellectual knowledge acquisition with knowledge application, right? Brings the business into this equation by articulating the need, by allowing the business sector to play an active role in workforce development, allowing the educational sector, the school systems to deliver what's needed at various levels. Some skills require high school degree GED. Other skills require an associate bachelor's, master's degree. It depends on the skill. It really benefits everyone involved, if you wish.
Commissioner, all the comments you made that makes a lot of sense, kind of common sense to some extent too, and we had talked about those things in the past.
Right.
But it seems like we are at loss. Somehow we cannot connect the dot, to the final goal that you are achieving, you're pushing for as far as having an apprenticeship program. Doesn't have to be all college and everything else, but how do you think local communities or even a GRADD region can play a role, to be part of the dream that you have for Kentucky?
Right. So I think we have to look at regions and sectors. The GRADD region's needs are very different than New York, California.
Sure.
So ideally, really, in this region, it would be great to solicit all business interest, every sector, from healthcare, IT, building trades, logistics, you name it, agriculture.
Right.
Come to the table, articulate your need, and that's how we can match the pipeline, right? And in order to achieve this vision, we have to be intentional, right? And there are several components I think we need to address. The messaging. In this country, in this region, we still think that success is defined by a diploma. It doesn't matter how much in terms of debt you accumulated, whether or not you have a job at the end, but if you have a diploma, you're successful. I would argue with that. You can learn how to work, you can learn how to do something with your hands, pursue an education, and become an apprentice, and redefine success. So that would be one thing that I would ask the GRADD region, GRADD itself, to consider. How do we approach marketing? Engage people with meaningful messages. Learn how to do something. Ask the businesses to participate, and provide those opportunities for our children as early as possible.
But isn't that true that oftentimes we kind of leave this challenge towards education folks, or to some extent, let the private sector take care of their own issues and everything else? What can we do? Because when we talk about government or the GRADD, then the issue comes to, oh gosh, who's going to pay for those things?
Right.
And
well, I think that, based on my experience over the past couple of years in this capacity, the schools are very eager to participate.
Right.
I have yet to find a school system, high schools or community colleges, that turn away and say they have no interest. They want to be relevant. We pay for the education. There's no free education. It's publicly funded. So the idea is, without commercializing the education, providing a more integrated, meaningful partnership that allows the business to participate. And I think part of the challenge really is to convince businesses to participate. For decades, we approached skilled workforce development. I use the analogy of a train track. Two train tracks go in the same direction, but they never cross.
Right.
So you finish education, And at some point, we hope that the business intersection, with the intersection with the business, delivers or yields with some skills. The apprenticeship really offers that early on, right? So that's one. That's how I would really move forward in terms of achieving this goal. As many businesses as possible, bring into this dialogue. And sit down with the education system and deliver one at a time or one sector at a time.
So what we're talking about is on one end, like you explained to me or before the show, is that are the private sectors, and they are defining how many and what skills they need for the employees. On the other end of the spectrum are the people, and in your definition, the people who may have a college degree but no job, who decided not to go to college, and all those things are needing for some skills, and somehow you provide the matchmaking.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So the apprenticeship really, this approach to workforce development starts with a hiring or a job commitment, on-the-job learning. And the apprenticeship has two components: the on-the-job learning and the related technical classroom instruction. Historically, what we've done was we completed all the classroom instruction, no on-the-job learning experience. It's alarming how many students in various sectors, from healthcare to IT, manufacturing, finish a degree, but don't have meaningful on-the-job learning or on-the-job experience within the field of their choice. Who is responsible of retooling those skills? Nationally, the statistic shows that businesses oftentimes need a year and a half to recoup their investment, meaning if you hire a degreed individual, don't expect profit out of that person for a year to year and a half. So we cannot sustain it like this, really.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a role playing for both sides, and then somebody in the middle, to figure out and how can meet the demand. Maybe there's a need for a certain apprenticeship training, and everything else. Okay.
So in order to scale it, we had a discussion about this. Traditionally, the apprenticeship, can be done by registering each company at a time. Clarification here: the apprenticeship is not a government program. The apprenticeship is a model that each business within each sector can adopt as their recruiting, training, and retention model, and incorporate it into the HR culture. And so currently we are really knocking on each business's door and working with one business at a time. We would love to see in this region, as well as other regions in Kentucky, organizations like GRADD or some other organizations play an intermediary role that can help us with matchmaking. Solicit a number of businesses with job commitments, and then identify existing pipelines: high school, college, underemployed, second chance seekers, you name it.
And you heard from our board of directors that they are really interested in that. And also, I am personally interested to make sure that we can provide that, that matchmaking of the, in the middle. Now, again, wish you best of luck, and hopefully, when you have a certain pilot project, other part of the state, please, let's learn from that as well. On the minute that we have on the show, I want you to tell us what the Labor Department does.
Our primary role, really, the Labor Cabinet is to look out and ensure employee safety. And this is done in a number of different ways. Obviously, the compliance aspect is important. We began to really emphasize a lot the education and training. Kentucky is one of the independent states in the country that's structured its OSHA safety program by separating the compliance and offering consultative and education to individual companies at no cost. We would much rather work with companies, improve safety culture, and avoid statistics, right? And the trend is very good. 2016 and 17 were the best years in terms of safety. It was the lowest in terms of fatalities ever. And since 1996, when we began to keep records, we had the lowest injury rate. In 1996, per 100 full-time employees, we had 8.7 injuries. Last year, we had 3.4.
Wow.
So the trend is very good. And this is important, also very important in terms of furthering the governor's vision. This is a good place to come do business. It's a safe place to come do business, right? So Kentucky is on the map.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Good luck to you with that message. And hopefully, when they come to Kentucky, they also come to the GRADD region too.
I would come. I'd love to come back. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
It was a great visit, great time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've been talking to Commissioner Dimeny from the Labor Cabinet about labor issues. Along with that, what can we do to provide the matchmaking of the employer's need in skilled labor that oftentimes are very difficult to fill the gaps. And we learn a lot of things that the GRADD will do whatever is possible to play a role, and hopefully with the Commissioner's help, we will make a difference. Again, thank you for watching GRADD Dialogue. If you have any questions about the show, please give me a call at the 926-4433. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Hello and welcome to the GRADD Dialogue. My guest today is Deneatra Henderson. She's the newest appointed about 3.5 months ago?
2.5 months.
2.5 months ago as the Chief District Engineer for Highway District 2, which covers all 7 counties in GRADD along with some other counties in Western Kentucky. It is a great honor to have her on the show because I think she has done a lot of highway planning, so she knows what the needs are at the local level, at the regional level, so we're glad to have her also on the GRADD Dialogue. About Deneatra, she's, let's say, from offices in Madisonville. She served as a District 3, which is in Bowling Green, as the planning supervisor, and has been, doing this highway safety improvement program since 2005. By the way, we've been talking to, the staff in Frankfurt about GRADD looking into some demonstration project with highway safety, so we can hopefully work with you as well. Henderson, Miss Henderson, is a 2004 graduate of West Kentucky University with a degree in civil engineering, and she began employment with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet as an engineering scholarship student in June of 1998. Deneatra, first time I met you was at the TAC meeting with the Owensboro and Davis County Metropolitan Planning Commission, planning area, and I think I was very much impressed about your knowledge that you showed in terms of what Governor Matt Bevin has put together as far as a road plan, road funding and everything else, which has always been a mystery and a complication, as far as what happens. And today, you spoke to the GRADD board and talked about what's happening in all 7 counties. So let's jump in now. First of all, before we do that, tell us what is the experience jumping in from the planning supervisor to a highway engineer for the district, which is one of the largest in the state?
Yes, the District 2 is the largest in the state. We cover more than 3,200 miles of state-maintained roadways and 11 counties, so it's the largest as far as land mass and the largest as far as state-maintained roadways and mileage. My role in District 3, I was the planning engineer, so I did engineering work there as well. It was more planning for projects to put into the recommended highway plan. My role here in District 2 has been very similar. The types of people that I work with, the types of projects that we're working on are very similar, so it's been a good transition.
So when you talk about the highway engineer for the district, so you also supervise or work, they work under you all the state highway offices in all the counties?
In District 2? Yes. Every employee in the District 2 area are underneath me.
Oh, so how many employees do you have?
There are 340 positions, so people rotate in and out all of the time. We are not able to keep all those positions full all the time, but there's at least 300 at all times.
And it's a great honor, for you to from a supervisor for the planning to now overseeing 300 plus employees.
And a great responsibility.
Yeah. And one of the responsibilities is to make sure the projects in the funding cycle gets planned and implemented and everything else. So just talk about what are we looking forward to in Governor's road plan as far as the Davis County is concerned?
In Davis County, we have a few big ticket projects, one being the 54 widening there near the Gateway Commons development. That one, we have some right-of-way funding in the plan that we're hoping to get started on soon, and hopefully some other big things going on in that area.
And it seems like 54 is a big challenge for for the traffic as well. So you guys working very seriously on that.
Yes, we have a portion of that we're widening to 7 lanes. Then it will taper down to 5, and then 3, and then to the rural section. So it transitions down.
Now, very close to 54. Towards I guess the old Hartford Road. we've been talking about the roundabout
Yes.
project for a long time.
Yes.
So what you can give an update on that?
Yes, that project has been let, awarded to a contractor. They should be beginning work very soon. The completion date in the contract is for the end of this calendar year. Now that is weather permitting and schedule permitting. We oftentimes have delays, so don't hold me to that.
No, you mentioned that project has been let.
Yes.
People who are watching the show may
Don't
not
know what that means.
may not know exactly how the
Yes.
whole process works. So can you kind of take
Yes.
take us through that? When a group of elected officials or technical folks decide that there has to be interchange or something here, what takes becomes a reality?
Yes. Well, you saw at the TAC meeting, the Owensboro TAC meeting, I presented on the shift process. And shift is Governor Bevin and Secretary Thomas's way to deliver a balanced recommended plan to the General Assembly. And then once it gets to the General Assembly, the local or the legislators put their spin on it and deliver an enacted highway plan after the governor signs it. So there are many years and many months that go into the planning on how to develop the recommended highway plan. And we use formulas, Excel spreadsheets. We meet with local elected officials to come up with their priorities. And then we base all that on funding. And when we run out of funding, we stopped the projects because we delivered a balanced plan.
Right. So when the project has been identified to be, comes out on the top of the lineup and everything else, then your division working with the other folks, other engineers, there are steps of the planning right away. What are all those steps before construction begins?
Once the highway plan becomes law, that is our marching orders for the next 2 years. Our bienniums are in 2 years, just like the budgets that come from the General Assembly. And we can start working on phases that are in that biennium, in our current biennium. We start working through the design process, which can take 6 months to 2 years or longer, depending on the scope and the magnitude of the project. Right away, again, can sometimes take up to a year, depending on complexity of the purchasing. Utilities might be simple. It may be if we have a huge fiber line through the project, it might take much longer. But once all of those things are decided and we have our bid package ready to be released to contractors to bid on, we call that our letting. And once we put that on our website and we say this is in the May letting, the May letting was on May 25th, and contractors then had their bids opened on May 25th, and we called that the letting date.
So depending on a project, and it could take 2-3 years from the conception to the reality, or could take almost 10 years or
It
so,
could,
depending on
the
that.
big ones.
Yeah. So talking about the big ones, I remember since last 10 years or so, we've been talking about making the Nature Parkway and the Audubon Parkway interstate spurs. And I know that the Transportation Cabinet, the Governor's Office, Governor Bevin as well as the previous governors have been working on that.
Yes.
So can we see some movement on, especially on the nature side of it?
There is movement. That May 25th letting that I mentioned, there were 4 counties worth of the Nature Parkway. Down in District 3, there was Butler and Warren County, and here in District 2, we had Ohio and Davis County. The Ohio and Davis County project was $28 million. The District 3 project was a little more than 13. So both of those projects were let in May, and we awarded those projects to Scotty's Contracting and Stone, who was the low bidder. They will begin to get started on their timeline. The completion date on those projects are summer 2019.
So by 2019, not only we will see the sign says I-165,
165.
but also we have, all the work will be done by that time.
Yeah, well, I can't promise that because the projects that were let were for the corridor-wide improvement projects, the guardrail, the resurfacing, changing some bridge transitions, some minor things, but along a huge corridor is a major undertaking. We also need to reconstruct the interchanges along the way. And those are separate design projects, and they each have their own unique schedule. Unfortunately, not all of the phases were scheduled in this current biennium of the enacted highway plan. So without any additional transportation revenue, we won't be able to work on work on those, and they won't be let until after 2020 if we have a new budget.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Good luck to that. And now, we talked about the 165, we talked about the 54 widening, we talked about the roundabout potential on
Yes.
the Old Hartford Road. What are other projects in Davis County? About 81, there's the discussion has been going on 81 and 60 or something.
The project that was just let on 81?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that one should be done by the end of the year.
Oh,
Or is,
okay.
is that what you mean between
Yes,
the
yeah,
roundabout and
uh-huh.
60?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I may have spoke out of turn on that.
No, that's pretty good. And
Okay.
then what about the other projects in Davis County? There's some bridges or anything, or
There are a couple of bridges. I don't have the exact locations, but Governor Bevin worked in the General Assembly, enacted many bridges in the biennium. The plan is to improve 1,000 bridges in the next 6-year
Wow.
highway plan. And of that, more than 300 are in the 2-year biennium. And so there will be a couple of those bridges from that initiative in Davis County.
Davis County. Now, in the about a month ago or so, we had a bad flooding, and that created a lot of lot of challenges, for at least for the
On that
60,
part of US 60.
Yeah, near the
Yes.
paper mill.
Yes, yes, near the mill. We have a project in design right now to raise the elevation of that road. We've pulled the deeds and created appraisals. Once we have final approval that those appraisals are okay, we'll be making offers to those landowners to purchase right away very quickly.
Now, Deneatra, I had to, if I may, give you a lot of compliments. Somebody who took this position in 2 months or so. Now you already have all this knowledge about the specific projects in Davis County. You got other 6 counties in my region, and you got other counties in other regions. It's a tremendous job.
It is a lot of information. I'm doing the best I can. I can't recall all the information for every time, but I'm trying to get caught up to speed as quick
Plus
as
you
I
got
can.
to answer to every politician locally, and then
They've all been great to work with. They've all been great.
well, we really enjoy working with you, and then
Thank you.
being so open and kind of tell us the whole process rather than because in the 20-year highway plan, there was a lot of misnomer as far as my projects in the plan. How come nothing is happening?
Yes.
So
Yes.
but the SHIP program is a lot better than
Yes. Our previous highway plans, 2016 highway plan, was 90% overfunded in state funded projects. The current enacted plan, the 2018 plan, is still overfunded, slightly overfunded, but not nearly as severe as previous plans. So we hope that eventually the plans will be completely balanced. This one is balanced enough that we know what we're supposed to be working on. And we hope that when you see something in the highway plan, you can know that we'll be able to deliver that the funding will be there and we'll be able to deliver.
And you talked about the 165, well, potentially 165, but there is also on the Audubon side of it, there is also, we're working with some I-69 corridors. That's also, even though they consider Henderson, but also there's a lot of mileage in Davis County as well.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The bridge.
Right. Yeah, and the bridge, and
bridge.
Henderson Bridge. Yes. And that's a mega project.
That is a mega project. Fortunately, the local people in Henderson are willing to accept tollings, and that is a big help on funding the bridge. It won't cover all of it, but it allows the project to move forward. So we expect to have our final approved environmental impact statement. We call that our EIS, and that's the document that's required to receive federal funding to construct the bridge. We expect to have that complete this fall, and then that should give us a final alignment to work towards.
In addition to on the projects we discussed and everything else, your job also involves informing the people about the upcoming hazard or flooding on the highways, or even upcoming construction going on, everything else. How do you guys get the message out to everybody?
Well, we have an excellent public information officer. You met Keith today.
Oh, Keith,
and
yes.
he stays on top of that for
Right,
us and makes sure that everyone is informed.
Well, Deneatra, I want to thank you so much being on the GRADD Dialogue, coming to GRADD, spending almost an afternoon with elected officials. You do an excellent job. We're so proud of you and admire what you're doing for the whole Harvard District too.
And thank you as well for having me.
You're welcome. Again, we're talking to Deneatra Henderson. She's our highway engineer for District 2. We're talking about all the things coming up in, especially in Davis County, some of the major projects. And you're going to see many construction the next 4 or 5 years or so. When you see that, don't get discouraged, because those are the progress that this lady is responsible to make it happen. So again, if you have any questions about highway projects or the road or anything else, you can always call the GRADD office. You can always contact the highway district office in Madisonville. Again, have a great day. Thank you.